Employers have read it. What can someone put on a resume that sends it straight to the shredder? 1. Okay. I was a writing tutor at the college level for 10 years. We also helped graduates of the university. I swear I am not making this up. A graduate came in, who had worked teaching English in Japan, and had worked at other positions for a few years after getting his degree. The profile section at the head of his resume listed accomplishments, including, I have climbed Mount Fuji fueled only by Quaaludes and caffeine. He was crestfallen when I told him that although I was duly impressed by this feat, he really needed to remove it. 2. How do you climb Mt. Fuji? Go upper, then go downer. 3. How can you be fueled by Quaaludes? That's a sedative. 4. If you resist the urge to sleep for just 15 minutes, you get a pretty kick-ass high from it. 5. I received a resume last week that had notes on it. Insert relevant skills here. And maybe change font. Fill this space with buzzwords. This was on his LinkedIn profile as well. If you can't pay attention to the resume you send out, I can't trust you'll pay attention to anything else. 6. Lorem ipsum. 7. My company's website currently says this in one place and I have brought it to the attention of our person multiple times. Yet there it is. Taunting me with its lack of professionalism. 8. I once contacted a small business to point out a punctuation error on their site. They had used an apostrophe to make Saturday plural. I explained that apostrophes shouldn't be used that way. They replied to thank me for the feedback. 1 week later, I visited the site again. Every plural word had an apostrophe. 9. Oh my God, I would lose my mind. We have a local pizza restaurant that sends out texts every Wednesday about large special Wednesdays. And it makes my eye twitch every time. 10. It's been like that for years and nobody noticed. I bet we could do it across the whole site and only the person who noticed originally would lose their mind. Lol, do it. 11. Well, guy made it through the resume but almost didn't make it through the onboarding paperwork. Entry-level position. Guy was 19, I think. Nice enough kid, low life experience, but that's how it all starts, right? Emergency contact info. Name mom. Relationship, good. So like if we called your mom, and you were hurt, she'd care? 12. That's fucking hilarious. Thank you. 13. My daughter got a birth control implant a year or so ago, and my sister took her to get it. She said she read back over the paperwork and where my daughter was supposed to sign her name that she gave her consent to the procedure. My daughter had simply written, yes, she is her father's child. 14. Technically, here's no rule you need to sign with your name. Your signature could be your best dick drawing. It used to be traditional for illiterate people to sign with a big X. 15. I used to work as a teller and there was one business account where the owner signed checks with a smiley face. It was on the signature card and everything. 16. I used to be a bank teller and this guy signed an extremely consistent squiggly line. Then one day he came in with a beautiful signature and I told him he needed to stick with his usual one or he could have issues cashing checks because it didn't match his check history. He got denied for cashing a $40K check the next week when I went on vacation. I warned him. 17. Interesting. Some banks allow you to make multiple signatures and have them on your profile, though it's not widely known to the public. Source, former teller. 18. This guy was a house flipper and cashed much larger than normal checks, so he was on a much higher level of scrutiny. He usually got his history and signature card checked. 19. I was working in retail and a guy signed the credit card slip like that. Was joking around with him about it and he showed me that it was even their signature on his license. 20. I saw a guy interviewed once. He said he had signed his name on his driver's license as 3 smiling cat faces. A short time later he had to sign a stack of real estate docs, and the lender insisted he use his legal signature, as shown on his official ID card. He said it took him a very, very long time to sign his name like that, dozens of times. 21. I'm tempted to put something similar on our HR system and see what happens. Emergency contact. The wife relationship, good, but has it ups and downs. 22. Facebook was way ahead of the game. It's complicated. 23. I coach and a kid once put emergency contact relationship as single. 24. Please tell me under sex. He put yes, please. 25. Or your mom, good. 26. Okay, that's kind of adorable. 27. Oh, bless his heart. 28. The only resume I have thrown right in the proverbial shredder was that of the wife of a friend of mine. I was attempting to get her a job at my employer. She had no degree or relevant experience, but we needed a receptionist, and people commonly move up from those jobs into other admin positions. Plus, it's government work, so good benefits, lots of paid holidays, etc. Bottom line, I was doing this underqualified, unemployed person a massive favor by giving her a reference and a chance. We didn't have any other applicants. The job was hers to lose. She didn't know that, so she brought her a game. Here are some excerpts from her cover letter. I may not have a degree, but I have what engineers don't have, 10 years of experience. Engineers aren't very organized people and I can keep them in line. I have better social skills than engineers do. I am not paraphrasing. Those are things she wrote when she sent me her resume and cover letter to look over before she submitted them online to apply. I was just like, you know, I'm an engineer, right? She did. I continued, you know, the job you'd be applying for is a receptionist position, not an engineer position, right? She seemed pretty sure she could move up and be an engineer in a year or so. That is not at all a thing in my field. It's one of those fields where everyone is required to be licensed and you have to have a degree in this just to be allowed to take the exam to get the license. But she was absolutely sure it was. I told her that if she was going to submit this, she wouldn't be hired because the entire panel was engineers. She didn't listen and submitted it. She even listed me as a reference. I told my boss she was someone I was trying to help and she wouldn't help herself, which was accurate, but I've got what engineers don't have, 10 years of experience. Became the office joke for years to come. Every time someone reached the 10-year mark of their career, we'd be like, you can't be an engineer anymore. The crazy lady said 10 years is the limit. Lol. 29. Well, look. I already told you, I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good at dealing with people. Can't you understand that? What the hell is wrong with you people? 30. I mean, if she had phrased it that way, the engineers might have gone for it. You'll do whatever it takes to protect us from the horrible customers? Hired. 31. I played a similar role at my job in a hospital department. The prosthetic orthotic lab staff preferred not to deal with random DME sales reps dropping by, and appreciated my competent gatekeeping. While I wasn't particularly good at dealing with people, most of my colleagues could have learned people skills from Boo Radley. 32. People skills. Really depends on what you're aiming for. I worked briefly at an electronics store similar to Best Buy, and while the usual managers and supervisors could rattle off all the product knowledge and promotional material we could possibly provide, there was one supervisor who provided a unique service. Meet Taylor. Taylor don't give two shit. She was the supervisor that the others called when a customer was getting overly familiar and needed somebody to just straight up tell them no, with a withering expression that can only be summoned by somebody with truly no smile in their heart. As somebody with over 10 years customer service experience, it was awe-inspiring. 33. Haha, my charge nurse, Betty, was our tailor. God, I love that woman to pieces. I hope she's doing well. Just thinking about the withering look she'd give to the daughters from California puts a smile on my face. Thank you, Betty, for always being a cunt when we needed it most, and for having zero time for anyone's bullshit. 34. One of our unit managers, Charlotte, is a classic diploma RN battle axe that last gave two fucks at approximately the same time girdles were still required undergarments for nurses. I have seen grown adults cower when she fixes them with a steely stare and raises a single eyebrow damn near to her hairline. I want to be like Charlotte when I grow up. 35. What would you say you do here? 36. My manager asked me about a guy and it took me a second to think about it, but I was like, yeah, I do know him. He applied to be in a role on my team unbeknownst to me and used me as a reference unbeknownst to me. I asked to see his resume. I started reading the resume, the spelling mistakes, the bad grammar. I started feeling so damn embarrassed. Went back to my boss, handed him the resume and said, nobody in their right mind would hire someone with a resume like this, and furthermore he didn't tell me he was using me as a reference. 37. Well, you were a reference. Just not in the way he hoped. 38. I'm an engineer with 9.5 years experience. It's almost over. 39. Get ready for all that receptionist money, you've earned it. 40. Did this lady think she was applying for a receptionist job? Or did she think she was applying for a Dilbert comic? 41. Could definitely tell she was uneducated. Couldn't read the room even after you flat out told her several times? Ik hope will make it far in life being that stupid. 42. I had one where under education he wrote, suck my dick and get me a job. I stared at the screen for a good 3 minutes when I read that. 43. And, does he still like working for your company? 44. Way the company is going, I'm sure he would have. 45. He's the CEO now. 46. Boy, that's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. 47. This sounds like the kind of thing where someone edited his resume as a joke and he sent it off without realizing it had been tampered with. 48. Or is court ordered to actively seek employment, but doesn't really want a job. 49. My thoughts exactly. We used to get a lot of these when I worked at a roofing company. My absolute favorite was the guy that rearranged our lobby furniture so that he could plug in his phone charger and kick back while he filled out the application. 50. Oh. An independent thinker and troubleshooter all in one. 51. Military spouse, with rank no less. 52. Like, they put the rank of their military husband or wife, but they themselves were not in the military? 53. Oh yeah, that's a thing they do. I live in a military town and work for the government, but in an entirely non-military agency and capacity. I have definitely had military wives try to pull rank on me at places like the grocery store, or in line at the pizza spot picking my order up. 54. Does this ever work for them? Does it not embarrass their spouse? 55. It embarrasses everyone. Luckily it's not a frequent occurrence, but I've seen it and been the subject of it a handful of times. I try to not go to the store in uniform, but sometimes the kid needs milk or a prescription picked up, or takeout or whatever. 56. It's typically either really humiliating for the male spouse, majority of cases, or the male spouse is a complete moron who encourages it. 57. I once received a resume in the mail that had no telephone number, address or email. He called a few days later to ask why he hadn't received any reply. I asked him to get a copy of his resume so we could review it together. I asked him to tell me the address we might have replied to, then the telephone number and finally the email. After a long pause, he said, "AWW fuck," and hung up. 58. I used to manage a restaurant and also remember getting a resume without phone number or email. Funny stuff. 59. Shit. Someone who can understand they made a mistake and own it. Hired. 60. One resume I got while managing a head shop included how much he could bench and the characters he played in high school theater. He was in his late mid-20s. 61. Sounds like Andy Bernard. 62. This guy put a Tinder bio at the head of his resume. All his likes and dislikes, with a headshot of him holding an axe while looking sweaty. I do at work. 63. I see where the misunderstanding was. The job posting was for it and this guy thought he was qualified because he has that indescribable it factor. 64. At least if a computer or server ever needs to be felled like a tree, you know who to call. 65. Time Person of the Year 2006. 66. Time Person of the Year 1938, and you want to manage a deli? 67. When I was in high school I worked in a shoe store at the mall. We got a resume once for a sales job that had, under the other interests section, special relationship with the one they call Satan. Yes, really. I wanted to interview her, just to see what she'd actually say in person. My manager vetoed that, sadly. 68. I have a friend that managed a shoe store. She received an application that said, I play ukulele sort of, under the skills section. I think about it on a regular basis and it was probably 10 years ago. 69. I have to laugh because coincidentally, I recently applied for a job and put teaching myself ukulele via YouTube under hobbies and interests. But it was a hipster millennial outdoors eco kind of company, and it seemed to fit their vibe. I did get an interview, which went really well. 70. Tangentially related, my best friend learned ukulele so he could tell women at the bar, I play a little guitar, and never explain it's a ukulele. 71. Smart move by your manager. Someone close to Satan is probably only applying to a shoe store job to steal all the souls for the Prince of Darkness. 72. Nudes. Like, any picture of yourself is probably going to get the resume thrown out because of potential lawsuits, but hearing that shriek of, "Dear God, why?" from the hotel manager's desk while they were going through resumes was hilarious. Like, bro, your butt was not that nice. Why did you attach it? 73. Had a dude turn in his application with black marker lines redacting all of his info. Only things left were his name, a phone number, and a note saying, "We can discuss these details during my interview." He, in fact, did not get an interview. 74. Was his name Rusty Shackelford? 75. Had one guy put, I'm a sex offender who fucked a child, but I'm working on it, on his resume. I'm an attorney and promptly told HR to blacklist that individual for liability purposes. We work in tech with a daycare on site, no shot in hell. 76. Did they seriously actually literally write that? Well, on the plus side they announced themselves loud and clear so people can stay away. 77. Charges like that show up immediately during the background check. If someone has a criminal history, they'll just tell you exactly what you'll find up front. It's easier on everyone. You won't bother them with a call if it won't work, and you won't need to submit for a background check with the government if it's a deal breaker off the rip. 78. I didn't make it past the name line on someone's resume one time. We were hiring a CFO and Googling their name revealed an SEC complaint for a 9-figure fraud. At the time, There wasn't a verdict on the books, but I wasn't gonna wait for one. See you never. 79. In a prior role, I was hiring for a weekend night shift sanitation position, and we tended to get really desperate people who applied. I reviewed the applicants with a coworker, and she remembered seeing the name in the local paper recently. I googled the name and found the court records that the person had not only embezzled but also, when caught, tried to burn down the prior employer's office to the ground. When my HR team asked why I wasn't interviewing that person, they told me I had to interview them because it was illegal to base that decision on a pending, not final legal case. It really sounds great to allow that person to work with highly concentrated chemicals in a food manufacturing plant. 80. Life coach. And all their education is from sketchy seminars at the Radisson by the airport. That's an #boss babe, CEO of their makeup MLM. 81. Had an application for a management position at a public library. Job listing specified that an MLIS, Masters in Library and Information Science, degree is required. Got an application from one person who was attending community college, earning an associate's degree in music. Their only management experience was running a K-pop fan club. Another person spelled the library's name incorrectly. 82. Reading through this makes me feel very good about my own resume. 83. Student at the School of Life. 84. Like a lot of companies nowadays, we do blind applications, no mention of age, gender, name, where you studied, etc. Allowed on the part that goes to people doing the evaluation. We also attract a lot of applicants from prestigious universities, some of whom really feel the need to find a way to mention the name of the institution in their competency answers, as though it will help more than actually demonstrating that you are a good candidate for the job. Technically, I could throw your application away. I usually won't unless you're especially obnoxious about it, but it definitely does not help. Oh, but one person did add Mensa IQ to their application in response to a question that had no relation to such information, and that did get rapidly dropped because that's a huge "I'm going to be insufferable to work with" red flag. Edit. Oh, and the personal statement that began with "as a large language model" didn't get very far. 85. Not a resume, but occasionally someone will cold message me on LinkedIn, and whenever I can I'll reply if it's a student looking for guidance in my field, and take a call and talk them through some shit they should know. Anyhow, one of those messages began, "Dear Mr. Name, I hope this message finds you in the pink of your health. I'm still not fully over that." 86. I had someone once put mom to child actor, and she listed that she homeschooled on set and managed their schedule and things of that nature. I had someone else who put babysitting Daniel. She made him eat his vegetables, among other things. It was cute. My absolute favorite was a guy who wrote his attributes landscape in italics on a piece of paper that had a background of a unicorn on a cliff with a sunset. He came and asked for it back when he wasn't hired. 87. I had someone once put mom to child actor, and she listed that she homeschooled on set and managed their schedule and things of that nature. That could actually be something useful. 88. We had a young woman apply for an entry-level software engineering job a couple years ago that had a Linktree URL in her application and resume. One of my coworkers was doing resume evaluations for our boss and opened the Linktree, finding links to an R-rated Twitter account, a PG-13 Insta, her OnlyFans, and to her content on several other porn sites. My coworker and boss were not amused, and they were debating whether someone was trolling the company or if it was a bizarre spam attempt. Her resume was rejected, and she was sent an automated "Thank you, good luck in your search, please try again in the future" email. A few months later, we were advertising another open entry-level position when her resume came through again. My boss was doing the resume evals and recognized the name. He opened it a second time, while commenting to another of my coworkers about the inappropriate resume. He's not a perv, but was just surprised to see it again. When my boss clicked the Linktree URL again to show the coworker, he was greeted with a perfectly normal collection of engineering links, including a link to her electronic resume, her LinkedIn, several projects she'd worked on, and a GitHub account. Our best guess is that the applicant had accidentally copy-pasted the wrong Linktree URL the first time. She was still rejected for the second position. At that point, several employees had seen everything, and my boss decided that moving her resume forward for interviews would be inappropriate. Bit of a shame too. Solid GPA from a well-respected CS program, interesting projects, and a demonstrated ability to take on some absolutely massive workloads. Sorry, I'm weak and couldn't resist. When applying for a job, please don't include links to your nudes. Aside from a handful of socially awkward software engineers, most of our people don't want to see them. 89. This tops the cake. 90. Oof. I feel bad for her. Wonder how many resumes she sent out to various companies before she noticed her mistake.